Hello everyone, this is Janet Bloom, and in this video lecture I'd like to talk about highlighting and annotating correspondence. Now I have provided the page references for you, just in case you haven't gotten your textbook yet. So we're working on Task 1 from Project 1, which is on page 2. And just to talk a little bit about highlighting and annotating, when we receive correspondence through the mail, sometimes it's going to be your job to go through and highlight and annotate that correspondence to firstly make it easier for your manager to reference that material quickly, and also to make notes for yourself so that if there are some items that you need to attend to, you can reference the highlights quite quickly. Now I will be talking a little bit about the highlighting and annotating correspondence, which is found in Appendix E of your textbook. So these are the points that I'm going to be talking about as we look at our letter sample. And the letter sample that I'm going to be using is the Appendix D highlighted and annotated letter sample, which is found on page 70 when you do get your textbook. So you can see in this particular example, they've highlighted some of the key dates. They like to use yellow as a general rule because it does stand out and it photocopies a little bit better than some of the other colors. It may still photocopy with a gray shadowy background, so don't expect it to come out exactly clear. If you were worried about having a clear copy, perhaps you're going to send this to other people, then I would suggest you take a copy prior to highlighting your work. And of course, you're always going to want to make sure that it is your job to go through and highlight for your manager. Now you want to highlight sparingly. I'm going to make this a little bit larger so that we can see. You can see that only the key information is highlighted. Notice things like on the date. I'm not going to highlight the year because it's assumed that we're going to be talking of that particular year. We don't need to highlight things like this year's focus. Just what is the focus? It is upcoming training sessions in business. So highlight sparingly and look for key words. When you do see dates, check the accuracy of them. If you have other materials that reference the conference, make sure that the dates do in fact match those other references. If we have days of the week, make sure when you double check your calendar that those days actually line up. And think about things that need to be put into the calendar when you see these dates, because sometimes that would be helpful to have a calendar reminder system. We'll talk more about that in a different video presentation. Look for anything that references something that's going to be mailed separately. So for example, a conference package will be forwarded to you by the end of December. So you may want to highlight that and make a note to yourself in your calendar that you should be receiving another package. Also look for items that request some sort of action to be taken and take notes of those so that if you do need to respond, you have that information quickly. Scan any tables of contents in magazines for relevant articles if that's what the correspondence is that's coming in. And then, as I mentioned, look for anything that needs to be added to appointments in your calendar. When annotating, what we're going to be doing is adding information that will help us remind us of something or remind us to do something. And annotating simply means writing extra information either in the side notes of the actual correspondence, or you can see in this example they've included it down at the end in a little box. So they've just written this down. You should be writing in pencil, and sometimes it is recommended that you write on the back sheet of the paper so that you don't get that information confused with the actual correspondence. And you again want to double check that your supervisor does want you to do the annotating, and be careful if you need to make a photocopy that this is erasable or that you've written it on the back. Make sure your notes are very brief. It's not great to have a reminder system if the reminder system is longer than the actual correspondence. And include reminders that you would give your boss if you were actually speaking to him or her, so things that you would want to ask them. If something has been completed, then you can write done or write down that you have completed it or where it is located so that there's no confusion. And if money is attached, make sure that the check amount actually matches what the reference is in the correspondence for that check. Check for accuracy in all cases, so whether it's an invoice number, a date, a check number, etc. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about how do you highlight and annotate electronically. So we've seen that manually, using the traditional snail mail, we can highlight using a highlighter, even multiple colors of highlighters, although, don't get too crazy. And we can write our notes directly on with pencil. But sometimes you're giving correspondence electronically that your boss would like you to highlight and annotate. And in that case, you can use some electronic tools. So I'm going to go over to our actual document that we're going to be highlighting, called the invitation letter. So this is the letter that's going to form the basis for a lot of what we're going to be doing in Project 1. And you're going to open up this invitation letter and you're going to highlight electronically. There are different ways of doing this, but I think the best way is to use the highlighter tool. So it's called the Text Highlight Color button, and it's on the Home tab in Microsoft Word. And there's really two ways you can use this. The first way is you could select the important text that you want to stand out, and then click the highlight tool. And notice I'm clicking the button, not the arrow beside the button. We'll talk about that in a moment. When we click the actual button, the text is now highlighted and the feature is turned off, so we can go and do other things, type, etc. If we're going through and highlighting our document, rather than selecting and turning it on and then selecting and turning it on, what we can do is turn on the highlight tool by clicking with nothing is selected, and that will leave our highlight tool on until we decide to turn it off. So we can now go through our document, we can highlight the important information, and then it will stay on until we're all finished. So as we go through our document and highlight the important information, when we're all finished, we can turn it off. Now, if we have highlighted something that we didn't mean to highlight, simply select the text that you didn't mean to highlight, choose the drop-down arrow, and choose No Color. Now, when you do that, notice the button changes. So the button remembers the last option that you selected. So the next time you then want to highlight and put this in the yellow, you then have to select and then choose the drop-down arrow again and pick the yellow color. And then the button will remember that color. So again, there are two ways of highlighting. We can select text, click the button, or we can click the button, go through our document, and select the highlighted options. To annotate, there are again different ways we could do this. We could go to the end of our document, press the Enter key a couple of times, or if we wanted to start a blank page to write our notes, we can press Control Enter. Control Enter is the keyboard shortcut for starting a new page, and we can then start typing our information. The other method is to use the Comments tool, and the Comments tool is available under the Review tab. So if I had a note that I wanted to add for whether they're able to present at this year's session, I could select the information, and I don't even need to select it all. If I just wanted to select the keyword, I can click on Comment, and notice I get a comment bubble to the right-hand margin. This does not affect the font size or the length of the document. It just makes it a bit smaller on the screen. So I can put in, are you able to present? Okay, so I can type in the comment, how I like to have it appear. And if there's something that I want to put in and I decide to add a comment, so registration fee is $2,500, and I put in this has already been paid, or whatever my comment is. And then at a later time, I determine, oh shoot, maybe I was thinking of something else. I double checked and this has actually not been paid. When I want to delete the comment, I can either right click the comment and choose Delete Comment, or I can click on the comment and under the Review tab, I can choose the Delete button, and that will delete that comment. I can also edit a comment simply by clicking and then fixing the text to how I want it to appear. Now sometimes when you've sent this, your supervisor will reply using the comment system as well. So they will read your comment and they will reply to it. And they may put, yes, I am able to present. And, you know, the communication can go back and forth. So the comments can build on each other. So you can see how this could be an invaluable tool for electronic communication. Now your task in this particular project is to pull this particular document, which is called the invitation letter, and I want you to go through and highlight and annotate electronically. So I want you to highlight the key points to prepare the letter for the Director of Training's inbox. I then want you to go ahead and annotate using the comments feature, indicating any notes that you would like to include for the director. You're then going to compare your document with the answer key that I've provided. Now, of course, it's tempting to just jump to that answer key and not even complete the assignment because you're not handing this one in. However, what's going to happen on a test when you have to highlight and annotate and you haven't had the practice of using those features? So this is a practice exercise for you to use the highlighting tool and the comments feature and double check your work against the answer key. And I would highly recommend you take the time to go through and do just that. Thank you. Have a good day.